Welcome back to Investing Talk Podcast.
Good to be back.
So we had a lot of requests to look into energy fuels. It's a fascinating company, right? Sitting at that intersection of nuclear energy and critical minerals.
Absolutely. Two very hot sectors right now.
And the big question, the one everyone keeps asking us is energy fuels a good time to buy now? It's definitely one of the more talked about stories, but, well, it's complicated financially.
It really is. Lots of moving parts.
Exactly. So we've pulled together the latest reports, institutional views, all that stuff to try and give you the clearest possible picture. Before we get into that, though, please take a second, hit subscribe if you haven't already, give us a like, it helps us out, and definitely let us know what you think in the comments.
Yeah, we read those.
We do. And here's a challenge for you. Drop a comment below if there's a specific company you want us to tackle next. We always enjoy digging into listeners' suggestions.
Definitely. So our mission today, essentially, is to cut through that complexity surrounding energy fuels. As you said, their unique exposure to both uranium and rare earth elements. That needs a careful look.
Two markets, one company.
Exactly. So we'll break it down into three main areas. First, the fundamentals, the path to profitability everyone's watching. Second, the technicals, the stock's momentum has been pretty wild.
Wild is an understatement.
Right. And third, the crucial upcoming catalysts and, importantly, the risks, especially those lined up for Q4 this year, 2025.
Okay, let's start with those fundamentals then, because this is where you see that big contradiction straight away.
Yeah, the top line versus the bottom line.
Exactly. You see this really robust revenue. Trailing 12 months TTM revenue is reported at, what, $65.08 million as of October 2025? That's huge.
It is. It points to, industry-leading expansion, really strong demand for what they're selling.
No doubt about the demand. But then you look down the sheet.
And there's the flip side. The TTM net income is, well, it's negative, sitting at minus $93.1 zillion.
93 million in the red. Now, for a lot of people listening, that's a massive red flag, right? Why is the market seemingly ignoring that loss, focusing so much on the future?
That really is the key question. And you're right, a loss that big normally screams caution. But the sources and the market action suggest this is seen as strategic spending.
Strategic spending. Okay. Explain that a bit more. How is losing nearly $100 million strategic?
Well, think of it less as a failure and more as the upfront cost, the really aggressive capital investment needed to build out capacity and secure assets for the future, especially in these critical sectors, uranium and REEs.
So they're spending now for dominance later.
Basically, yes. Turning those short-term losses into long-term strategic value, particularly domestic supply. We really have to look forward here. Analyst forecasts, company guidance, it all points to a pretty clear path to profitability, targeting 2026.
2026. That's the magic number then.
Seems to be. And that confidence is underpinned by upward earnings revisions specifically for 2026. Analysts are expecting a significant jump in margins once these investments actually start producing at scale.
And despite those current negative earnings, analysts are still bullish overall.
Highly bullish, actually. The consensus is buy, or strong buy, pretty much across the board. Now, there is one detail for 2025 we should mention.
Okay.
The Zacks consensus estimate for this full year's revenue is actually lower, around $40.8 million. That reflects an expected dip, probably due to fewer realized sales hitting the books this specific year.
So a bit of a dip before the rip, potentially?
You could say that. The market seems focused beyond that potential trough, looking squarely at that big margin recovery projected for 2026.
Okay, this sounds like a really ambitious, large-scale bet they're making. What kind of financial foundation supports this kind of aggressive strategy? Can they afford it?
That's a fair question. And their financial structure looks, well, incredibly resilient, actually. The market cap is substantial, right? $4.76 billion as of October.
That's a big company.
It is. And crucially, they have minimal long-term debt and strong liquidity. Lots of cash or near cash on hand.
Ah, okay. Low debt, good cash position. That makes sense.
Exactly. That kind of balance sheet strength is vital when you're building out critical infrastructure like this. It gives them immense flexibility to invest, to navigate commodity price swings.
Yeah, right. And all that investment, all that flexibility, it's focused on what you called their unique advantage, that dual commodity exposure.
That's the core of it, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what really sets them apart from, say, a pure play uranium miner or a standalone rare earths processor.
They're in both games.
Precisely. Access to both uranium and rare earth elements, two separate but equally vital sectors. both benefiting from these huge macro trends, decarbonization, electrification.
And importantly, securing domestic supply chains, right? That seems huge now.
Massively important. So they have two distinct growth avenues, not just one.
Mm.
And for investors, it's almost like a two-for-one bet on securing those critical materials domestically. Less risk than a single-focused company, perhaps.
Okay, let's try and put a number on that uniqueness. You mentioned valuation. We saw a note suggesting they might actually be trading at a discount compared to some peers, despite this advantage.
Yeah, that's where it gets pretty compelling from a valuation standpoint.
Yeah.
If you look at the forward 12-month price-to-sales ratio, which is a key metric for these high-growth companies that aren't profitable yet.
Right, because you can't use PE.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Energy Fuels is trading at about 41.11 times forward sales. Now, compare that to a competitor like, say, Uranium Energy. They're way up at 75.91 times.
Wow, quite a difference.
Big difference. It suggests Energy Fuels might be more fairly valued right now, maybe even undervalued relative to peers, especially when you factor in that clearer path to profitability that they seem to be on.
Okay, so fundamentally the story is short-term pain for long-term strategic gain, backed by a strong balance sheet and a unique market position. But does the market actually buy this story? Let's look at the technicals, the price action.
Yeah, the technical picture is, well, it's pretty dramatic. It strongly suggests aggressive accumulation is happening.
Okay. How so?
Well, just look at the historical trend. The stock's seen this massive uptrend. The 52-week range is huge, from $3.20 all the way up to $27.33.
$3 to over 27. That's incredible.
It really is. Speaks volumes about investor excitement over the past year.
And we saw it massively outperform the sector too, right? Up something like 209% over 12 months.
That's right, 209.3%, blowing the sector average away. Now, currently, the trading range is a bit tighter, but it's holding high. It's been bouncing between about $18.76 and $20.94 recently.
So consolidating at a high level, what do the moving averages tell us?
They confirm the strength. The stock is trading well above its key moving averages. The 50-day simple moving average, kind of the short-term trend indicator, is down at $14.57.
Okay.
And the long-term benchmark, the 200-day SMA, is way down at $7.73.
Wow. So it's significantly above both.
Very significantly. That confirms strong, sustained bullish momentum. Buyers are definitely in control. Now, with that kind of price action, volatility must be pretty high. We saw a note calling it constructive volatility, which sounds interesting.
Yeah, volatility is elevated, around 21.92%. But in this context, it doesn't necessarily look like panic selling. It seems more like active interests, accumulation, buyers stepping in. It's the kind of volatility you see in a strong uptrend.
Okay. Now, here's something I found really interesting. The analyst ratings are strong buy, right?
Correct. Very bullish consensus.
But the consensus 12-month price target is $14.95.
Yes, that's the disconnect.
Wait a sec. Analysts are saying strong buy, but their target is like 25% below where the stock is actually trading right now, near $20. What does that mean?
It means the market rally, the actual price action, has gotten way ahead of the current analyst models. Investors are pricing in future good news much faster than analysts can update their spreadsheets, basically.
So the market's not waiting for confirmation, it's betting heavily on what's coming next.
Exactly right. The price is being driven almost entirely by anticipation. Anticipation of future catalysts, future results, maybe those partnership rumors we'll get to. It's forward-looking momentum.
And are the big players, the institutions, involved in this?
It seems so. We're seeing signs of healthy institutional inflows. You can infer that from the expanding market cap and especially the high daily trading volume. It's been averaging over 10.8 million shares traded per day.
That's a lot of shares changing hands.
It is. That kind of liquidity suggests strong institutional interest and conviction. They're not afraid to trade actively at these levels.
Okay, that anticipation leads us perfectly into the next section, the upcoming catalysts. What are the immediate triggers, the things investors should be watching, say, over the next 3 months?
The big one, the most important near-term event, is definitely the Q3 2025 earnings report and the subsequent conference call. That's scheduled for November 7th, 2025.
So just around the corner.
Yep. And expectations are high. That call is really expected to reinforce the bullish story, provide updates on operational progress, maybe firm up that 2026 profitability timeline. It could be a major trigger, potentially justifying the recent run-up.
And there's been other positive news recently too, right? Supporting that forward look.
Absolutely. Just in October, the company got a conditional letter of support from Export Finance Australia for their Donald project. That's significant international financial backing, partnership potential, boosts credibility.
Okay.
And back in September, they successfully closed an upsized convertible senior note offering at a pretty low rate, 0.75%. That basically just boosted their cash position even further, giving them more firepower for development.
Good moves. Now, beyond the November earnings, what other potential catalysts or structural things are coming up, maybe in December or January?
Well, around mid-December, keep an eye out for potential ETF rebalancing. Sometimes stocks like energy fuels get added or have their weighting changed in key indexes or ETFs.
Which forces those funds to buy or sell, regardless of the current price.
Exactly. It can cause temporary volume spikes and price moves. Then, looking into January 2026, we'll get the institutional 13F filings.
Ah, seeing who owns what.
Right. These filings show the holdings of the big asset managers, think BlackRock, Vanguard, firms like that. Seeing if they significantly increase their stakes in Q4 is a huge confidence signal from the market.
Okay. And in a hot sector like this, there's always chatter, rumors. What are people whispering about that might also be fueling this anticipation?
Yeah, there's definitely some unconfirmed chatter out there. Things like potential strategic partnerships with major utilities or maybe defense contractors, probably related to long-term supply agreements for uranium or rare earths.
That would be huge.
It would. There's also some speculation about them maybe expanding into battery metals extraction or even potential M&A, maybe acquiring smaller rare earth junior miners.
Okay, lots of potential developments, but just rumors for now.
Just rumors. We always have to advise listeners, focus on the confirmed company guidance. But you can bet these rumors are adding fuel to the fire, contributing to that high trading volume.
Fair enough. Now let's bring in some necessary caution. We've painted a pretty bullish picture, but where are the main risks? What could derail this story?
The number one risk factor, I think, remains that profitability timing. The target is 2026, but any significant delay, maybe unexpected operational hiccups, slower ramp up, anything that pushes that positive profitability further out could really hurt sentiment, especially since the stock price already reflects that future success.
So execution risk on the timeline.
Definitely. Second big risk, commodity price sensitivity.
Yeah.
The revenues are ultimately tied to the prices of uranium and rare earth elements. These are cyclical markets.
Right. If prices tank.
If global prices slump, maybe due to oversupply or weaker industrial demand, their margins will get squeezed no matter how well they operate. That's largely out of their control. And finally, there are always operational risks.
Like what?
Project delays, unexpected issues getting permits, maybe tougher competition than expected for those critical long-term supply contracts. Building mines and processing facilities is complex stuff.
Okay, good to keep those risks in mind. So let's try and pull it all together then. Based on this whole analysis, the fundamentals, the technicals, the catalysts, the risks, what's the overall take?
Well, looking at everything, the analysis points to an overall bullish rating. We scored it a 9 out of 10.
A 9. That's strong.
It is. You've got the strong revenue growth, that clear strategic investment paving the path to profitability, the powerful technical momentum. It all lines up with the analyst view, even though, as we discussed, the price has kind of outrun the specific targets for now.
And that November earnings report is the key near-term checkpoint.
Absolutely. That's the immediate risk-reward pivot point. Confirmation could send it higher. Disappointment could see it pull back sharply.
Okay, so if I'm listening to this thinking about my own portfolio, should I view energy fuels as more of a short-term trade or something to hold for the long haul?
Good question. I think it potentially fits both, depending on your style. For the short term, the next few months, it looks ideal for momentum traders playing that anticipation around the November earnings and maybe potential partnership news in Q4.
Riding the wave.
Exactly. But for the long term, it looks really attractive for multi-year structural growth. You have those huge macro tailwinds, decarbonization, electrification, domestic supply chains, and energy fuels has that unique dual commodity advantage, positioning it perfectly. It could be a compelling core holding for that theme.
Right. Okay, here's maybe a final thought for people to chew on. We talked about geopolitical risk, relying on other countries for critical stuff like nuclear fuel and magnets.
Yeah, a huge issue.
So think about this. Energy fuels offers this potential domestic source for both uranium and rare earths. How much does that unique two-in-one capability actually insulate it from global instability compared to companies that only do one or the other?
That's a fantastic point. That strategic value, that potential for domestic independence in two critical areas, that might be the real unwritten premium that long-term investors are truly banking on It's more than just commodity exposure. It's supply chain security.
A powerful concept right now.
Extremely powerful.
Yeah.
That's probably the most compelling argument for the long-term thesis beyond just the numbers.
Okay, great discussion. We do have to end, as always, with our mandatory reminder. This analysis is purely for research and informational purposes. It's not investment advice.
Please read the official SEC filings, consider your own risk tolerance, and always consult with a qualified professional financial advisor before making any investment decisions.
Absolutely. Thanks for tuning in to Investing Talk Podcast.